We got some major fight announcements last night from Dana White. He said that on the UFC 300 card, we are going to have Charles Olivera face off against Arman Tsarukyan. And on the UFC 299 card, we're getting Dustin Poririer to face off against Beonit Saint Denis. And in this video, I'm going to be getting into what the implications of these two matches are going to be and what I think Dana White's long-term plans are for the year of 2024 by setting these two matches in motion. He also made a revelation about Islam Makhachev, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit as well. But what do you guys think? Do you think there is anything behind Dana White's plans for these two fights? Let me know in the comments. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Ultimate Punching, the Ultimate MMA channel. I want to thank you all for stopping by, and if you wouldn't mind, before we start the video, if you could hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, it helps with YouTube algorithm and it helps grow the channel. Let's start off with UFC 299, Beonit Saint Denis versus Dustin Poririer. I think this fight, to put it in the simplest terms, is to help grow the French fan base for MMA and UFC, right? Beonit Saint Denis is a rising star out of that country. They've got Cyril Gane as a star out of that country. And I've heard in the past that the UFC really wants to grow out the French market, to grow in the French market. And so what they're trying to do by putting Beonit Saint Denis against Dustin Poirier, they're hoping that Beonit Saint Denis can get the job done, get that win, and they can build on his star power for those French fans, those French viewers. I think that is kind of what they're trying to do. Dustin Poirier has some huge star power within the UFC ever since his fights with Conor McGregor, right? And so by putting Beonit Saint Denis against Dustin Poirier, they're hoping that this fight is an absolute war. Both of those guys are brawling, and they're actually hoping that Beonit Saint Denis gets that win. He's 27 years old. If he gets that win over Poirier, he is going to be a long-term major contender at lightweight, and he's going to have plenty of years to work his way up to that championship title, right? So if he fights Dustin Poirier, maybe he gets in there with Gaethje, maybe he gets in there with Tsarukyan or Oliveira, but he's going to have a ton of high-level fights, a ton of star power that he can sort of use to catapult himself to being a superstar from France. So I think that's what's behind that UFC 299 fight announcement. But who comes out on top in this match? In my opinion, this is going to be where steel meets steel. Both of these guys are incredible fighters. Dustin Poirier has not lost 2 fights in a row, I think, in his entire career. I could be wrong, so double check me on that. Beonit Saint Denis is on a 5-fight win streak, 5 finish streak since his ass kicking that he took when he first joined the UFC. So, in this fight, I feel like youth will prevail. And the reason I think that is because Beonit Saint Denis has that sort of French special forces background, and so I think he has what it takes to overcome anything that Dustin can throw at him. I don't want to count Dustin Poirier out, but he is 34, Beonit Saint Denis is 27. I think Beonit Saint Denis has an answer for almost anything that Poirier can throw his way. Both of these guys have incredible chins, and very rarely do we see them get knocked out. Either way, I am expecting an all-out war. This will be a bloodbath. Both guys will be evenly matched. Both guys will be hitting each other for 25 non-stop minutes of action. And I think when all is said and done and when the smoke settles, Beonit Saint Denis is going to get the decision, maybe unanimous, maybe split decision, and it's going to be something like he won 3 rounds, Poirier won 2. That's the way I see this playing out. Now, UFC 300 fight announcement. Charles Olivera versus Arman Tsarukyan. In his post, Dana White also revealed that Islam Makhachev is dealing with an injury, won't be coming back until June, July of 2024. Now, here's what I think. I think that this fight is an insurance policy for what Dana White is actually planning. So we have heard from Conor McGregor, January 1st, 2024, that he is going to be fighting Michael Chandler at International Fight Week. I kind of think that's bullshit. Because we saw a post from Chandler saying, 1 or 2 days into, I think January 2nd, we saw a Twitter post from him basically saying that his camp is going really well. First day of camp went really well. So you mean to tell me he's starting a camp for a fight 6 months from now? I don't think so. I'm thinking that means he and McGregor are going to be fighting and headlining UFC 300. And the ideal scenario would be if Conor McGregor KOs Michael Chandler and then faces off against Islam Makhachev at International Fight Week for UFC 300. That would be the perfect scenario. Build up, huge pay-per-view, etc., right? But the insurance policy is that if Michael Chandler wins, then they're going to do whoever the winner is of Tsarukyan versus Charles Olivera. Now, I know Dana White has said, Charles, or the winner of these two. Charles, the winner of these two, right? But he changes his mind all the time when Conor McGregor is involved. So I am sure this would be the ideal scenario. This is scenario 1, by the way. Scenario 2 is that Conor McGregor was telling the truth, that he is going to be fighting at International Fight Week, in which case he's going to be on the same card as Islam Makhachev, right? Or I think that would be the ideal, or maybe Islam Makhachev fights in July. Either way, what they do is Conor McGregor fights Michael Chandler at International Fight Week. Again, I don't think that's happening, but that happens. He beats Michael Chandler, then he and Islam Makhachev fight in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia or something like that in October of 2024. So we get sort of Khabib versus Conor 2. That's what I think they are planning. And again, the insurance policy is Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Olivera, whoever wins that fight fights Islam Makhachev at International Fight Week. Now, Charles Olivera and Arman Tsarukyan, this is really interesting because both of them have finished Beonit Dariush, and both of them have lost to Islam Makhachev. Arman Tsarukyan held his own in the grappling department against Islam Makhachev. Charles Olivera got finished. This was, early in both of their careers, so, I'm not too worried about it. But what I will say is I think that this all depends on whether or not Tsarukyan can clip Oliveira before Oliveira can clip him. I think it's going to be a stand-up battle for the most part. But in this scenario, whoever hits who with a good, clean shot first, I think is going to come out on top. Because we have Charles Olivera, who gets hit and can get hit fairly frequently, and he gets hit to the point where he almost loses and comes back and wins. That is his MO. But with Arman Tsarukyan, he's going to be similar to Islam Makhachev in the sense that if he clips Oliveira, I don't think he's going to be afraid to go to the ground with him and try to ground and pound him and get the decision, or get the finish, compared to some of the other fights we've seen where people don't want to go to the ground with him due to the submission threat. So if I were, I wouldn't place money on either of my calls right now because it's still early. I haven't seen any new information, but the way I feel here is that these two matches, on top of what I originally said, are also there as a way to build stars, right? The UFC has a star problem right now. A lot of their biggest and best stars are in their mid to late 30s, right? And so what they're trying to do, Israel Adesanya is 34, Dustin Poirier is 34, I think Gaethje is 35, Oliveira is 34. And so what they're trying to do is get some of these fresher, younger fighters who have the it factor, right? And get them in there with some of the veterans so that they can sort of build these stars for the future of the UFC. So primarily what's going on is what I initially described, but secondary to everything I talked about is the fact that the UFC is in a bit of a star drought, and they need to build up more stars. And ways to do that is to put Beonit Saint Denis against one of the most famous guys in the lightweight division, Dustin Poirier. One of the best ways to do that is to put Charles Olivera, another huge star of the lightweight division, in with Arman Tsarukyan. So in my opinion, that is what I think the UFC is planning. I think that Dana White is thinking 3 or 4 moves ahead. How can we get the biggest stars together to fight each other? And I think he's salivating at the idea of Conor beating Michael Chandler and giving him a title shot. Because Michael Chandler's ranked number, 6 in lightweight? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Who knows? But that's what I think the implications are of those 2 fight announcements. What do you think? Do you agree with my analysis? Do you have a different opinion? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for stopping by, and we will see you next time.